Hey everybody, it's Bust, starting up Expedition Trial number 310. Let's see who shows up. Looks like there's a little Callista hidden back there. Interesting. I think we've dove in on all of these champions fairly recently. I think most recently we tried to jump in on Twisted Fate. I can't remember if that was a draft I actually produced and put out there or threw out to the ether, but I don't remember if we've actually put forth this Twisted Fate since he was changed in the 2.5 patch. Now he takes one additional card to level up. His pick a card flip draws one less card, and so it's considerably more challenging to come in and flip your Twisted Fate. And so I'm kind of interested in this. My real problems with starting with this first to the draw Twisted Fate are it wants to be in sea monsters, which is fine. But the way we really try to pursue sea monsters with Twisted Fate is using a whole bunch of card draw and then using Jaw Hunters. And so, the start here doesn't really lend itself to doing that. This is kind of more along the lines of the Nautilus toss style, where you actually physically want to play the sea monsters in your deck. Kind of problem number two I have with this is with the way that these cards initially work, I should say with these draft buckets, whatever we're calling them these days. If you can see, up at the top of the screen where this is just a Bilgewater only pool. Oh, these are all single card pools. I thought we were going to be able to see a different one, but the thing with trying to draft sea monsters, excuse me, is we're really going to want to be in Shadow Isles. So if we, we're in just say like Nautilus, Terrace from the Deep Nautilus, he's paired up with Shadow Isles. We're guaranteed to see a Shadow Isles pack in the second pick, and so it's not a guarantee here, and so we may not actually run into a Shadow Isles pack. But I mean, we can always just abandon going sea monsters. We just have one card that we should be able to trade away if we don't have too many sea monster style themes in our deck. And so I think I'm still kind of okay to pursue this. If you're really just looking for your 7 winner, both Callista and Garen are extremely powerful champions. I think as far as these are concerned, from like a power level standpoint, Callista is stronger. But if you're looking for just a consistently strong deck, then Garen would be stronger. It's very easy to get Callista's very polarized. It's very easy for her to get some kind of like weird deck where she has like 3 Mist Wraiths and then like half of the Sacrifice Your Units theme, and then just doesn't really have like the full, extremely powerful deck. But on the flip side, like there's extremely hard to find a stronger deck than a good Callista deck. And so, that is up to you which of these you would prefer to take. Garrett on the other side of things, just go out there and take all the elites and you'll be in good form. But yeah, I think we're okay to take this Twisted Fate. We'll see what we can work out with this. We have a bit more to talk about with him. So we are going to go and pull him up on the site. If you're not familiar, it's ftpbus.com. And this is where I keep all of my expedition related content. The guide section is the easy way to find, all of our video content. You can also just like search like this. I don't know how common this is, but if you go and just want to find, hey, how do we do a decent Elise draft, then we hopefully got you covered with with all of these Elise drafts here. And so a neat little tool. I'm not sure how frequently people use this. I do occasionally get the comment of hey, I need some help drafting this specific thing, and this is probably the more reasonable way to find an in-depth Elise guide. Otherwise, there's the 3-minute guide out here as well that should get you right on track if you're trying to get into your draft pretty quickly and easily. But here, we're going to be on first to the draw Twisted Fate. And so, this deck has a few different things going on with it. In my opinion, there's, 2 different decks that you can usually draft with Twisted Fate. We're either going to be looking towards sea monsters, like we've already kind of mentioned. The way Twisted Fate really likes to go for sea monsters, though, is using Fortune Croaker and Pull Shark to just churn through our deck. Maybe by the time we're ready to like play a salvage, then we should already be at deep. It's just a ton of card draw that he can hit through in the early game. And that's the preferred way to hit deep. So like with Nautilus, you're usually looking to play toss. With Twisted Fate, we're looking to have a bunch of card draw, and then To kind of build on that, we don't really care what sea monster we would be getting. There's not much difference between having the Beast Below be a 7/7 and then having, say, something like Shipwreck Hoarder be a 10/8. It's just going to be the biggest unit on the board. And so there's not a whole lot of difference between them. And then, so to build on that, if we don't really care what sea monster we have, then the way that we want to be getting them is with Jaw Hunters. And so he comes down, kind of functions as a Bilgewater removal spell and puts a sea monster in your hand. And so, you don't have to go like all in on that strategy, but that's like really at the high level how Twisted Fate is trying to pull off sea monsters. The other kind of deck he really, performs well with is this just kind of like really early game aggression style deck. This is something that I would say where you're trying to win a game on card quantity and not so much card quality. And so you're still doing a similar game where you're trying to run out these Pool Sharks and Fortune Croakers, and you're just trying to really be a face deck. And then where you're getting strong there is, you can replace your cards so easily, so it doesn't hurt to just go and throw them all away. And then the thing number 2 is Twisted Fate can come and red card all your opponent's value blocks. And so you have to kind of assume that, we're going to play these early game units. Our opponent's eventually going to play something bigger. Our opponent's going to start blocking to where their unit doesn't die, and they probably just have 1 health left over. And then Twisted Fate can come in and just clean those value blocks back up. That tends to be strategy number 2. Strategy number 3 is he's really good in plunder decks, and so he can just plunder anytime he wants with a red card, and so he finds himself paired up pretty nicely with things like Sejuani or Gangplank. So we'll see what comes together. He's also a fantastic supporting champion, but with a start like this, if we're going to come in and take this Twisted Fate with Lure of the Depths and an Allegiance card, we're probably going to have to look to build towards Twisted Fate, not really towards another faction. Okay, and then, this should work out just fine, right? Finding this Gangplank. As we kind of mentioned, Twisted Fate's very good at hitting plunders, and that's exactly what Gangplank is looking for us to do. The big thing that we talk about with Gangplank is if we want him to level up, it's too slow if we're just doing it with damage on our turn, right? If our preferred method of getting Gangplank to flip is just say, playing Plowing Cutthroat, assuming the Cutthroat's just never going to get blocked, then, we're not flipping Gangplank until turn 9 or turn 10. That's just way too slow. And so, the big thing we talk about with him and Sejuani is how do we deal damage to our opponent on our opponent's turn. With Gangplank, it's typically Make It Rain. You have access to Parlay, and then now we also have access to Twisted Fate. And so, these two champions should play pretty reasonably well together. We'll go ahead and get the Gangplank pulled up. Where are you at? Raiding Party. And the Raiding Party deck is just a plunder deck. And so we'll probably look to, just be ignoring sea monsters. We may look to pick up, some Abyssal Eyes or something as kind of closers. But this does really want to be a very low to the ground and aggressive deck. You're typically, getting a bunch of plunders and then replacing your cheap cards with things like Black Market Merchant and not Make It Rain and Pilfered Goods. And so the idea that we typically have with these style of decks is, we're going to be trying to keep our curve extremely low, and then we're going to draw expensive cards out of our opponent's deck. And so we're just going to try to spend all of our mana every turn of the game, and then once it gets to the mid game or the late game when our cheap units aren't that good anymore, then we're really just kind of hoping to draw cards out of our opponent's deck and fill in the missing parts of our curve. But, as far as these go, it's really easy to see the bottom side of the curve, which is pretty strong here. What is going to be the kind of key units to this deck is, we can't just play 100% cheap cards, right? We do kind of want our curve to stop at, 4, but we have to play a few expensive things. We'll probably end up picking up, a couple of Gangplanks, but, we do need to try and pick up a couple of Abyssal Eyes and a couple of Slippery Wave Riders, just as our ideal closers in this style of situation. But, welcome to the team, Gangplank. Let's see what we can piece together here. And okay, we do have some small decisions if we want to jump in on the Scargrounds here. Sejuani is who also fits into this style of deck. I don't think that's what we're really looking to do here. I want to stick to our allegiance. Maybe we'll get to pick up another Yordle Grifter or two. And then here, I'm pretty interested in the Shell Shocker Fortune Croaker. The Merchant Pilfered Goods are pretty good, but at the end of the day, if we're going to have the cards that we're going to be stacking, I'd rather be stacking Fortune Croaker than stacking Black Market Merchant. And so I'm going to come in and take this more aggressive package of the two. And then realistically, we shouldn't have too much trouble picking up some of these plunder style cards. Okay, then with these, similar situation to the previous one. We don't really want to be picking up these Freylord cards. This is how the Freylord side gets their plunders, though, right? With the overwhelms. So if Gangplank is trying to use things like Prowling Cutthroat and Make It Rain and Parlay to get his plunders, Sejuani is doing it with overwhelms. But that's not what we're really looking to do here. We're going to take the Shell Shocker You've Been Warned. Just, another early game play. This, basically comes down for free and allows us to get our parlays online without having to stop playing units. And then You've Been Warned is, Bilgewater's, kind of best and only way to come in and interact with our opponent's units. Okay, then, a pretty weak set of cards here. Out of all of these, I really want the Jagged Butcher, but the Monkey Business is ultimately just an incredibly terrible card. The real strength in Jagged Butcher is, he's reasonably statted, he's extra good. If he's plundered, he's still even good plundered on like the 4th or the 5th turn. And then playing on turn 1 allows us to play Fortune Croaker on 2, whereas if we're just playing Shell Shockers and Prowling Cutthroats, the Fortune Croaker is going to kill our own units. But with these, I'm just going to take the Fortune Croaker. The Monkey Business is just too bad. Okay, and this is what we're talking about right here. If, we're really looking to pick up the early game plays, Pool Shark Jagged Butcher is just absolutely what we're looking for. Okay, interesting set. And so, as it stands, our top end, isn't horrible. I'm kind of okay with, dabbling in some sea monsters here. We shouldn't have too much trouble getting deep, relatively quickly. It's not going to be like a Nautilus deck where we're hitting deep on turn 6 or turn 7, but we can get there, 8 or 9, just depending on how the card draw falls out. And so I really kind of want this Abyssal Eye, and it's rare, which means it's kind of tough to get these things to show up. But we are giving up on Pilfered Goods again. I think we just have to kind of go and take it. I don't want to get too far into this draft without really having a bit of top end solidified here. But here, back to the cheap stuff that's looking good again with the Coral Creatures Jagged Butcher. We don't really have the cards where Petty Officer would be good. We haven't seen any Make It Rains. We only have one Parlay, and so I think we're safe to let him just go. And we have unfortunately just passed on all of the Plunder cards. Maybe we'll get to end up taking them at some point. But outside of that first pick where we had both the Merchant and the Pilfered Goods, these have been stuck with real turds. Sleight of Hand is a horrible card that I have no intention of actually playing. So, still some good early game cards here. Okay. There is always an argument to take Strong Arm. Is this a good card? No. In a vacuum, this is not a good. This is not a good Runeterra card. But the removal in Bilgewater is just so bad that we're oftentimes okay with picking this up. But the problem and the downside to Strong Arm here is we have another Zap Sprayfin and Fortune Croaker. These ultimately are just way too powerful and on point with the strategies we're trying to pull off here. Okay, as this continues, I'm kind of okay with just picking up the Jaw Hunters here. It's a sort of a removal spell. We've gotten a reasonable amount of card draw. I don't want to call ourselves, into the Sea Monsters camp until we really pick up a salvage and maybe an additional Jaw Hunters. But as kind of a side strategy, this is actually looking pretty good here. And I'm happy to pick up the Hunters because we're still a little light on top end. I am, extra glad that we decided to take the Abyssal Eye. But we haven't seen any Slippery Wave Riders either. So we do need a little bit in the top end. I was kind of thinking, Gangplank does function very similarly to a Darius, to where you can kind of add Gangplanks to your deck depending on what your top end needs look like. So we can technically, just go pick up more Gangplanks. But, as we've been talking about here recently, and kind of designing elusive decks and fearsome decks, I kind of want to think of us as being an elusives deck here if we're going to look to be playing the late game with Zap and Abyssal Eye and I forget his name, Slippery Wave Rider. Gangplank is probably going to be interacted with our opponent to where these elusives can't. And so ideally, I don't want to have to stack these because it's not really stacking on top of a strategy we're already doing. But in a pinch, he can get the job done. Okay, here we go. This is what we'd be looking for. A second Abyssal Eye with the Pilfered Goods. Right on point, help us fill in this top end here. Okay, okay. See if you if you just wait long enough, the plunders will show up. I don't think we're gonna have enough spells to make this mind meld ever worth it. We're currently at 5. We could draw some out of our opponent's deck, but the Pilfered Good Fortune Croaker are just more on point. Okay, okay. Shell Shocker with another zap. So much zap spray fin today. That's pretty on point for me. Okay, okay. The hits continue. Look at these. If you're familiar with the familiar with the videos, these are on point with the kind of things FTP Bust likes to draft. Everything costs either 1 or 2. Just get in here and get your aggression on. But with this, we'll take the Pole Shark and the Shell Shocker. Just the Pole Shark is ultimately the big unit that we're looking for here. Okay, with these 5 Shell Shockers, nice. With these, I'm not like quite interested in making any of these trades. If we could trade out a Shell Shocker for the Beast Below, I would be okay with it. I would sort of be okay with trading out Jagged Butcher with the Beast Below. But the Shell Shocker is really just kind of like our filler unit, and Pool Shark is like the key to everything going on in our deck, right? This is how we draw our cards faster. This can be targeted by a Fortune Croaker. This is how things really get rolling. And so I want to hang on to this. I think we're just going to go ahead and skip all of these. Hunting Fleet is just too bad of a card. And then we're looking pretty good as far as Pilfered Goods are concerned. I really don't like stacking too many of these. But the Prowling Cutthroat is kind of our big activator for what our deck's trying to do. So, we're just going to skip over top of these. But we will go and turn something premium. I'm curious. I don't know if what happens if you pilfered goods out of your opponent's deck if it turns those cards premium. I'm just going to go ahead and guess that that's not how it works, but we could probably go ahead and pick that up and find out. But I don't know what is left over here. If we have any common units in our deck that would be ripe for upgrading, we're kind of running out. We could pick up the Prowling Cutthroat. We could pick up the Fortune Croaker. Okay, you're going to be our boy this trial anyways. You're looking pretty good. Just the key to everything that we're trying to do. Pilfered Goods maybe one day, but today it will be the Fortune Croaker getting the level up. Alrighty, let's jump right in. This turned out pretty okay. I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. The big problem we have here, and the big problem you typically see with Bilgewater is we don't have any removal. We got a Parlay, we got a Twisted Fate, and that's it. And that's why I wanted to specifically call out Strong Arm, because we didn't see any scrap shots. That's the 7 mana, deal 7 damage to something. That's what ideally our kind of catch-all removal spell would be. We just didn't see any, and so that's why we're like, well, maybe we'll play this this horrible plunder card just to make sure that we have a way to make that happen. So here, I'm willing to hang on to Twisted Fate. He's pretty on theme with everything that we're trying to do. He's pretty good at every stage of the game, and a lot of times I just cycle away 4-cost cards, but not here with Twisted Fate. Here, happy to stop this guy's aggression. With Diana Darius, I have to assume that he's fairly aggressive. It's weird not seeing them have Shadow Isles as far as Diana is concerned, but let's be okay. All right, here it's a touch awkward missing out on the Beast Below, but it's ultimately not a huge problem to have this cycle away. I don't want you to think that like you're it sucks to like discard a card when you play Pole Shark and then lose the unit. But I don't want it to like feel that way. I want you to think don't want you to think you're like really losing out on something here. Okay, this seems reasonable. And with this, look at this sweet aggression we get to continue on with here. We get to play Shell Shocker again, and then follow up with Lure of the Depths. Pretty nice. I'm gonna go ahead and we could, look to do it like this. Maybe we end up doing this. Just going ahead and putting the 2 damage on it. And see if we'll get a better block next turn. And then even if we don't get a better block, we can look to clean this up with a red card. And I'm on this plan of just dropping Abyssal Eyes here. Pretty close to deep. We're going to be 5 cards away at the start of our turn. Okay. All right, so I'm curious if opponent opens here. are going to have to kind of, come in and find a way to deal with this Basilisk Rider. The choice may be to just gold card it down now. Depending on what opponent does, we might just have like a humongous open, but would we rather just come on board with the Abyssal Eye? Because the problem that sucks for us here, and why I am going to play the Twisted Fate, is if, say he just plays like the 6/5 Fearsome, or if he plays another Basilisk Rider, something that's going to get in the way of us gold carding this down, and it's going to be a bit of a problem. And then this is 100% fine. He's not going to have good blocks with this Basilisk Rider next turn, and we should hopefully get a good interaction here. Ultimately, the big problem we could run into here is if he has his Darius already. But I'm glad to see him play the combat trick. He doesn't add a unit to the board. That's all in all very strong for us. Okay, and then where do our sea monsters live? We're at 17 cards. Not ideal, but I think we're good to just go ahead and play the Abyssal Eye. We're looking to actually get Jagged Butcher down just for the additional health and see what we can do from here. It's unfortunate we're just a little bit short of hitting deep, but we'll have some big boy. Oh fuck, that is bad. That is bad. Oh no. Okay. I was gonna say we're about to have these big boys out of the Abyssal Eye, but man, that was the actual most brutal card that we could have seen. That's completely gonna take this game away from us. I thought it was pretty reasonable to accept that he just had like an awkward draw, but I don't think you can ever play around the Reckoning there. Okay, well, let's give him the opportunity to open. I don't see how else we can make shenanigans happen here. Unfortunately, okay, okay, sure. Yeah, we would have been right in there if we'd had had those deep sea monsters, but that was just a little too much for us to deal with. Okay, so interesting. A sunk cost. I haven't seen sunk cost in Expedition in ages. They took it out of all the card pools, which I'm not like super sure why they did. I don't know if they thought that it wasn't on point thematically, or if it was, doesn't seem too good for Expedition, but maybe it's not, where they really want Bilgewater to be in Expedition. But happy enough to pick it up here. We gotta get a removal somewhere. Yeah, that sunk cost gets a lot of hate on Reddit. Not 100% sure why. Like, if you're exactly in the spot we're in here now, right? We don't have any removal. We thought of taking Strong Arm and didn't, and now we're just happy to have something. I mean, yes, it's worse than Vengeance, but I mean, this is like the best option that Bilgewater has. Like on that previous game, if opponent plays Darius, sunk cost, we're right back in it. You're not like super stoked to be trading your 8 mana spell for his 6 mana spell, but you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. Okay, here I think we can just hang on to our cheapos. I'm extremely worried about playing Zed with this style of deck. Glad to see that we picked up Jaw Hunters, but it still comes down kind of awkwardly against this guy. But get in there right from the beginning, start ticking up our Gangplank. What do we think about letting Shell Shocker go? I don't quite like it. Looks like he's going to try and make some kind of Fiora play on us. Oh, interesting. So I'm not going to add the Jaw Hunters. I think we're good to just add Fortune Croakers, see what we can get going here. We can technically just like run all of this in and try to get a good plunder, but it all depends on what he adds here. I'm curious now, what do we do if he adds Fiora? I mean, it's pretty safe to just attack with our 2 attack units into her. But, okay. So not super ideal the way that this game is piecing itself together, but this is okay, I think. Absolutely. And so if we get, even if we get like a Twin Disciplines out of this Fuzzy Caretaker onto the Beast below, that's still pretty good for us. Twisted Fate. Interesting. He's going to be something that we try to deploy next turn. Are we good to just play Gangplank? I think so. I mean, it should be tough for him to have a way to interact with us. Just getting on the big boy plan here. Concerted Strike? That's a way to do it. Okay.
Something for the road.
Okay, then we got to spend the spell mana at some point. We're just not going to have anything to spend it on otherwise. Confront's moderately interesting. Okay. Let's get this big elusive sea monster into battle. I think this is a reasonable place to Twisted Fate. Just take out these smaller units. Oh, snap. I forgot we had the powder keg. Oh, snap. Just get your combos out here. Sure.
Who says I don't share?
Humongous swing and mana. That's beautiful for us.
You're covered.
I have to assume that the tracker is just going to come in and try to hit our Twisted Fate, so I'm just going to go ahead and hit him with the Fortune Croaker. Not a big deal. And we're going to be right at deep next turn. We can elusive our Fortune Croaker, our Beast below, and get him in for an attack if we want. Don't think we need to, but options are always good. I think he seems more like a target for a confront. Okay. Okay. So it's kind of interesting the spot we have ourselves in here, as to whether or not we want to just pick up more Twisted Fates or pick up Gangplanks. This is a hot garbage Gangplank though, so I'm going to take the Twisted Fate here. As you can see in those games, you know, we hit deep pretty quickly and easily. We didn't do anything to really go out of our way to hit deep, and we still got there. What was that, like turn 6? Maybe it was turn 7. I don't remember exactly, but you know, we just, you know, played the units we want to play and got there pretty quick. That's when I'm talking about the strength of, you know, the Twisted Fate decks and hitting your sea monsters just off of Jaw Hunters. But I think this is good. You know, the Jaw Hunters give us a little bit more top end. The top end was the thing that we were worried about, and you know, we're picking up the draw 2, and we're picking up a card that generates sea monsters, and so I think we're probably on point to just be a full-on Twisted Fate build around. But you know, if the next Gangplank is particularly juicy, then we'll reconsider. You know, if they're going to give us a Gangplank with the Dreadway, we're taking Gangplank, and so I'm not. I don't think it's, you know, strictly better or worse to take one or the other without more information. This isn't like one of these Teemo decks where we're like, yeah, we're playing as many Teemos as we can get. So with this, what were we dealing with here? Elise and Victor. I'm kind of tempted to keep the Jaw Hunters just because it's a way to kind of deal with his Elise. If these turns go how you would expect, to where you know, opponent plays Elise on 2, then we can take her down on 3, and hopefully that's fine. As far as this case goes, like, yes, we would prefer to have the Jagged Butcher be plundered, but if opponent opens with a say they, you know, open with a Hapless Aristocrat, then it's just going to completely shut down our Shell Shocker, and that's not a you know, real exotic play to be to be worrying about. Okay, so I don't think they should be able to add too much health here, so I'm just gonna go with this line with the Fortune Croaker, see if we can't pick up some more interesting cards. Cannot, but it's got us back to this curve to where we can start adding Abyssal Eyes next turn. Okay. And we just want to. I'm just going to go ahead and lure. It's like we have so few spells in this deck, it's not ultra likely that you know, we're going to draw one next turn that we physically want to play. And so we might as well just go ahead and eliminate the chance of us drawing a card we don't want. Okay. The nemesis of the spiders. Say what up to Twisted Fate. Okay. So how do we end up going about this here? Twisted Fate, of course, pretty far away from leveling. This Arachnid Horror is becoming a real pain in the butt. We don't have any ways to really deal with it. But do we want to Abyssal Eye Pull Shark? Or do we rather just play Jaw Hunters? I guess we can lead with the Pull Shark and see what opponent does.
Watch the ball, folks.
If he's doing something that doesn't play units, then I'm pretty on board with whatever his play is here. Beautiful, beautiful. So there is argument to be made to just go ahead and take this Arachnid Horror down, and I kind of dig it. These fearsomes are troublesome for us to deal with. We don't have, any way to positively interact with this otherwise. I think this is pretty good. I mean, we can try to spike a Vile Feast off of Yordle Grifter, but that's not a real play. Then, we're going to lose the pilfered goods. I'm kind of okay with that. Now that we're at this spot, I'm pretty okay to just bank this spell mana into sunk cost so that we can attempt to play this in the future. Get the Abyssal Eyes, we can get the Beast Below down, and all the sea monsters happening now. Okay, Beast Below is still good after that. We at least still get to draw some cards. We're going to be above deep, but are we willing to trade the Beast Below for one of these spiders? I think it's okay. Where are we at? 2 away from deep. So we can, if we draw additional card, we can just kill him next turn, right?
Lovely day for a battle.
We can't have all this happening. So now we can safely just, take whatever he attacks with here.
What's that noise?
Vile Feast. Okay. We might overwrite this Shell Shocker, but I think this is okay to add here. I think all this is going to come down to is if we can kill him with our Elusives next turn, and I'm pretty sure we can. We're going to, hit deep right away. We could have, picked up a unit with Zap Spray Fin anyways. We were a little bit short, and I think these sea monsters are just going to be enough to take the game down.
I told you, I can't actually fly.
Okay. Perhaps they will be a little short. Do we ever... What happens if we ever just play Twisted Fate? He's going to have 3 blockers. It's not going to change anything. This is still 15, right? If we hit with the 2 Abyssal Eyes with Zap and then parlay something. Okay, we win. Good deal. Pretty sure, pretty confident we win. I think he dies before this Neverglade Collector gains him the health back. But, yep. All right, good game. Let's see. No, not getting rid of the sunk cost, that's for sure. I think I'm kind of okay with skipping over all of these. I know like the Shell Shocker is the unit that we're okay to kind of be like swapping out, but I don't want this like gigantic stack of Fortune Croakers. I'm really happy to have the 4 that we have. I feel like that's probably kind of like the max that we want. They can be kind of awkward in finding spots to slot them in, whereas the Shell Shocker just kind of fits in like every part of your curve, right? Since he replaces himself as far as the mana is concerned. Like in that last game where we just played him because we were going to bank to 3 anyways, and we didn't care if we overrode it, but you know, it gives us kind of a safety net blocker if we need it. This will just fit in on any part of your curve. So happy enough to hang on to there. Seems good. Seems things are coming together decently here. We've got to drop that sunk cost. I mean, that was exactly what we'd be asking for. Asking for out of it. Just get rid of this thing. As a unit, the must-kill unit. It sucks to spend 8 mana to do it, but you gotta do it sometimes. Okay, starts like this are fine. Sejuani and Garen. Okay.
We playing bilge rules, son?
We're playing bilge rules, son.
Trick shot.
Okay, we did, pick up the Shell Shocker that we could add here. It technically should be able to just be wider than our opponent. If he plays any unit, it's going to shut down one of our attacks, which is kind of awkward.
There's plenty of killing left.
But see, this is what we fully expect out of these Twisted Fate decks. Whenever I talk about these, just being able to just get like a ton of card draw going. Just winning with card quantity instead of card quality, and then just picking up just like a little bit of late game from like Jaw Hunters, Pilfered Goods, having an Abyssal Eye and some nabs. This is like the perfect example of starting out with these Twisted Fate decks. Here we're just gonna open.
Give us some room.
Yeah, I guess we technically don't have to. What's the worst that would happen? The worst that would happen is that he plays Avalanche, but wouldn't he have played Avalanche last turn? I don't know. Something is suspicious about what's happening there. I have a hard time imagining that he just doesn't have a 3-drop. It seems like he wants something to do with this spell mana. So I was a little worried about just adding in Jaw Hunters. Okay. We interact pretty positively with these cards, though. Ooh, interesting, interesting hitting the Sea Scarab off of Jaw Hunters.
Where you going?
Would like to hit deep as quickly as possible. Okay, but yeah, this is the spot you'll find yourself in, right? We don't really care about trading away our card quantity. This is big game about card quality. Or that was backwards. It's a big game about card quantity. So we're gonna toss down to 20. We can put something in front of here if we want to go to 19. But I think this is just a take. We can pop this Badger Bear with an open and a Jaw Hunters next turn. And that leaves us in a spot to just kind of clean up the game with elusives.
Danger pays.
Sea Scarab Part 2. Okay. Not Radiant. Okay. Radiant Guardian would be extremely tough for us to deal with, but this is fine. Now we can try and do this thing to where we can get double tosses off of these Sea Scarabs and then level them up and have our Abyssal Eye ready for the next turn. I think this is a pretty reasonable spot to just get deep now. We can hit it with both of our challengers. So he's tapped out, so we can do this, we can do this, and these are going to be big enough to take down a Garen or these other things. I assume He's probably just going to block with the Conservator and then take 5.
Where is my second?
Prince.
Okay. Yeah, get stuff and make sure we're not going to deck ourselves. We're pretty safe in that sense. And so at this point, I'm pretty okay with just like throwing away units into his units. That kind of sucks, but he's only got the space for 1 combat trick now, which is fine. So let's just throw down this Abyssal Eye. He would have to have like a Radiant. I'm really kind of surprised that he didn't play the Tattered Banner onto his Sejuani. That's kind of interesting that he did it that way. Is there a way we ever win this with just like hooks? I don't think we need to get Boxtopus down. So let's just pass. See what he does. I was going to say, I think we've pretty much shut down his aggression.
I told you, I can't actually fly.
This is, we do have lethal. I don't feel really good about it though. Why are you playing Tattered Banner now? That's so strange. So we can get, 2 wider than him. But what value do we get out of being 2 wider than him? It's not a whole lot. So I think we can probably just try to come in here and pick on this Garen with the Sea Scarab just for the event that things don't go right this turn. Then I'd still fully suspect that he's probably got a single combat or a frostbite or something to make these attacks not play out how we want. Okay. They played out how we wanted. But I still think this was the safer route to take here. I feel like we don't win this game on this turn very frequently. Yeah, that was ultimately pretty strange. He didn't banner up his Sejuani just to kind of pick on our units while he could. But positive for us. Okay, so our choice here, do we want to, just pick up the 3rd Twisted Fate or pick up the Gangplank? And I'm just going to take the Twisted Fate. As, the concepts we've been talking about, I think that game was just a perfect example of, why we don't super want these Gangplanks. Yes, he's very powerful when he's flipped, but at the late game there, say that we had a Gangplank in place of an Abyssal Eye, we just couldn't attack with him, right? Opponent's units are too big. Or even if, opponent's units aren't like that, they aren't, gigantic Sejuani, Garen, 4/6, just even if it's a board full of 3/3s, then Gangplank has to, attack into that, and some of that damage is going to get prevented. So, he certainly has some negatives as opposed to just playing with Abyssal Eyes and then the Slippery Wave Riders that we just haven't seen this trial. But no, this has been beautiful. Even if we lose out on the next 2, I think this is the fantastic course for a video. I think somebody was commenting the other day on seeing the 0-win Callista run that we did over the pay to win weekend, and I'm more than happy to post a 0-winner if I feel like it's a nice little learning experience. And I think that's even if things go sour the rest of this trial, I think this is a pretty good example of what you want your Twisted Fate Sea Monsters decks to look like. Okay, I'd love to just go ahead and get this unit off the board. The Kindred decks tend to have a bunch of sacrifice outlets, right? And so this is a way to help prevent him from playing Blighted Caretaker. Now, I would assume that with him just not taking the damage, that we could probably pretty safely assume that he just doesn't have he just doesn't have a Blighted Caretaker in this spot. But we'll see how it plays out. I'm going to go ahead and Lure of the Depths. If we hit our actual Beast Below, then we can still play it here. Good stuff. Get the old 33%er to hit the beast below. I think he's better than an open. It's extremely hard for our opponent to have a way that can interact with this. Okay. Just a little damage prevention. Works for B. We still get the plunder and the 2 damage in. Start dropping Abyssal Eyes. We have Twisted Fate for, you know, some interactivity. This is looking pretty good. Okay. That doesn't seem like what you want to be doing. I guess he's not like super far behind. It's just we have 1 unit on board and we're like, yeah, we're pretty far ahead. Okay. Is that generated? I did not expect Shark Chariots to come out of this. Stalking Shadows found it interesting. That's quite the quite the card to be duplicating. Might have to save this Twisted Fate for a red card here. Okay, but we can zap. This is a, you know, we can realistically just be getting in with our elusives here. Might be a world where we get to parlay something.
Embrace life.
Expect death.
And our favorite unit, 2021 in Kindred. We're at least, you know, pretty reasonably set up to handle this Kindred. As far as him getting slays and killing off all of our units, just being able to come down here and drop, you know, a big pile of Fortune Croakers and such, really reduces the worry that you have to put into our opponent getting slays.
For silver I talk, for gold I listen.
Okay, we are kind of missing out on our opportunities to flip this Twisted Fate, but this is pretty good for us.
Deal me in.
It always hurts to sit around and draw a ton of cards when you have Twisted Fate on board, but this is good. This looks good for us. Okay.
I'm a people person.
My saplings.
We do not linger.
Go ahead and get this Wave Rider into position. Oh man, I forgot about the Shark Chariots. Oh, that's brutal. That's brutal. That's a ton of damage coming in. Okay. Ooh, Scuttlegeist. Oh, double brutal. I thought that this was going to be like a super good open that we were going to have here, and that ideal went away quickly.
Through the coral.
Man, I don't want to draw these stupid things. What a counter spell to our deck, man. I don't want to draw fucking 2/2 celestial things. Ooh. Hey, Black Spear. We still just want to come in and draw cards. We don't have the means to vengeance. So we don't have the means to come in and you know, Fortune Croak off one of our own units to activate a Black Spear. But that was good. That was good. We took away his way to get those Shark Chariots back. We got the vengeance for this Kindred. Things are looking up. We deep yet? Nope. We got ways to go for deep, but otherwise, looking good. How do we? This is going to bring back some Shark Chariots that we just don't have answers to. I think that's okay, but we probably need to get a blocker down.
A game. Go on then.
Watch the ball, folks.
Still planning on vengeancing this Kindred. We could just switch to a Black Spear, right? I don't think he's going to be like ultra scary. But we'll see how this plays out.
Oh, fresh soil.
Okay. So, how much do we care? So, like, these saplings are going to hook Twisted Fate Zap, which is kind of suck, but not horrible. I think we probably should go ahead and take care of one of these while we can. It's like we don't care about losing, the croakers and the grifters and the like, but I do want to hang on to either our elusive and our Twisted Fate. So I have to assume that he's probably just going to come in and kill our Twisted Fate, but it's okay.
One good turn, hey friendo. Where you going?
Okay. Keep this Kindred from flipping, so he has to do a little bit of work for his future ones. Neato little deck the guys put together here. Getting the Stalking Shadows Shark Chariot deck. I dig it. I dig what you're working with. This good as we're off of deep. We have 1 zap, 2 abyssal eyes. Okay. Gangplank is ready and able for combat. I mean, at least these Shell Shockers line up pretty well with his units on board. I think we get a much better benefit out of making a bunch of trades here than he does. And also kind of eyeballing this Stirred Spirits into Zap Sprayfin just to get a little bit more damage in here. Interesting, he played a Ephemeral instead of saving it for a Shark Chariot attack. Okay, so I guess it's safe to say our ground units just aren't getting in anymore. Let's add Jaw Hunters and see if we can't hook down Scuttlegeist. This is... Ooh. Ooh, sometimes you just draw perfect. Okay.
Better than eating.
No deep this turn. We could get it definitely for our next turn. If we get to the draw 1 here, the draw 1 off Fortune Croaker will be 14 by our next attack. Okay. So it feels pretty safe. He can... Ew, Hecarim. Don't have a lot of answers to Hecarim. You need something out of his deck for this. That's not it. Can go deep though. So let's do this. Let's Fortune Croaker. We can tag this, I guess. He is unfortunately going to be able to still get this big Hecarim hit in, but none of his other cards are going to have Overwhelm. So we can still block everything and not die to Hecarim here. And ideally, our Lure of the Depths here will draw a Abyssal Eye. It's the only sea monster that we have left. We should be able to handle the rest of this that way. So you have 2 health. You get to go here, 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 and here.
You can't do this.
All to 3. Technically could have gotten away without blocking Hecarim, but I think that we would just prefer to not die to Unspeakable Horror. Alright, let's see if we drew vengeance from him, so, so hopefully we can get out of it that way. No! Man, so close. That was a good game, but always makes my day a little brighter whenever we get to come in and beat a Kindred deck. So with these, I'm not interested in making any of these. I don't want the Wave Riders now that we have all of the Abyssal Eyes. I want to hang on to our removal spell. Hired Gun is a reasonable kind of removal, I guess, but I don't think we like really need it. Well, we probably should pick up the kind of interactivity here. So let's do take Hired Gun. Right. Here we go. What will we face next? Look at that. When the landmark countdown ticks to 0, doesn't matter. We got those sunk costs. We can we can pop those terrible little tally landmarks. Okay, a little worried about Teemo in this style of deck since we don't have a whole lot of interaction for him. But You've Been Warned can get the job done. Kind of a awkward way to have to go about that. But you know, if he plays the turn 1 Teemo, then we won't play anything, and then we'll try to Fortune Croak You've Been Warned him next turn. It should be pretty safe in the sense that you can't You've Been Warned a Fortune Croaker. So we'll see if it goes south here. I didn't, you know, if he's going to play Teemo, then we didn't want to play the Shell Shocker since it's just going to die to our Fortune Croaker, but a touch awkward that you can run into with this. Do we ever just want to like cycle through here? That's tough. Probably not. Not a huge fan of having to play off curve with this style of deck, but we'll see where it gets us. Odds.
Excuse me?
More than happy to take this thing down. What do you think about just playing Twisted Fate? It's kind of awkward here, but we do have a ton of card draw in our hand. Not a huge fan of it. So let's start like this. We'll try to get this. I don't really like this kind of Coral Creatures Fortune Croaker opening. This is all around pretty awkward. We don't have answers to these things with You've Been Warned. This is fine. Now we can Twisted Fate card this thing. Just kind of move forward from there. Want to do it, or we just want to accept that we're losing out on some mana? I think we should just get Twisted Fate down. I think there's a good chance that like this one just dies, but the second one should be a winner. So the reason we didn't want to blue card here is we don't expect him to like really live against this stuff, but it's very likely that we can get a good red card with our second Twisted Fate. Or our third Twisted Fate.
So pretty.
Think I'm still like a yodel in uniform?
You pay. I talk to spirits. These are my rules.
How close are you to flipping? You're getting there, friend. You're getting there. Okay, then I do want to play Twisted Fate here. I don't think there's much reason to come in and try to do things before we red card. Well, we might hit a second card. The kind of logic I had behind that line was that you know, red card's going to go on the stack, and he can just play the Mushroom Clouds whenever he wants. But let's see, we can maybe get a second red card out of Twisted Fate, or a second unit with the red card.
Never lost a fair game, or played one.
Yep. So this is not the deck you want to be drawing a whole bunch of cards against. We're gonna have to really watch ourselves as far as trying to play pick cards and stuff goes. But
I'm out.
see how much of this board we can't clear out. We're gonna have to draw a card against this chump one.
For silver I thought, for gold I leased it.
We draw this one. We're gonna have to draw a card from Chump Wump. This is not as ideal as things could go.
I need a rubber chick.
And I'm just gonna hit with everything. We need to chunk this damage in. How many cards? I got 22 left. We can add Terror of the Tides next turn. This would be 6 and 4 would be 10. So I think we can probably pursue this. What if we draw cards with Lure of the Depths? Can we ever get like to deep without killing ourselves? I don't think we can. But like the thing that we would like to do here is add both the Beast Below, gold card, this Puffcat Peddler, and then play Terror of the Tides. I don't think we have a way that we can get everything down next turn.
I'm always up for a round or
We
two.
do want to take down his fearsome blocker. I guess he would lose his attack with this, but I still think this is a unit we need to be dealing with.
There they go.
Hold it, partner. Tough swinging them big fists around, Vine.
Stick
Okay.
around.
That was unexpected, but sure. Not a lot we can do about that.
Justice is served.
Okay, so yeah, we're asking a lot out of this Terror of the Tides, but I don't think we can like just be drawing cards here. Do we just have to like draw cards and hope for the best? I think maybe we do, but that's tough. I think maybe like our course of action here is I want to play Terror of the Tides. He may or may not block it with Vi. If he doesn't block it with Vi, then we can maybe line up something on our next attack to where we take her down with Eben Warns. That's brutal. That's brutal. Okay. So what's our new way to win this game? Because I'm not quite seeing it.
It's not broken, just needs a little love.
So, I mean, if we Abyssal Eye, he can still just hook Vi with the Sumpworks map. But if we don't play it, then we just lose to Vi. Dang, what a brutal a brutal match to have to play. Interesting.
You're gonna need a map.
Okay.
Trouble coming at ya.
Can draw cards out of our opponent's deck. That kind of works, right? that's one way we might find something useful here.
Charged up and ready to go.
right, we're not going to have it here. That's unfortunate. This is like the actual worst matchup you can ever face with this deck is the Puff Caps deck, since we're just sitting here trying to draw so many cards. The Sea Monsters and the Twisted Fate decks have traditionally always had an issue with Puff Caps, but nonetheless, I think this was still a pretty good trial. This is, pretty on point with what you're looking for with the Twisted Fate Sea Monsters deck. The big strategies that we're really trying to pull off are, just having all of these early game plays between Shell Shocker, Pole Shark, Jagged Butcher. You're looking for some ways to continue your card draw with Fortune Croaker, and then that's like really the core of any of these Twisted Fate build arounds is your early game package of the Butcher, the Pole Shark, the Shell Shocker, and the Fortune Croaker. You can also include Crackshot Corsair and this one we had it for a while. The Prowling Cutthroat, those can all fit in as well. Just depending on what kind of theme you're pursuing, some of those are better than others. If you're trying to go for plunders, then the Prowling Cutthroat and Crackshot Corsair are a little bit more important. Where here's if you're just going for the Sea Monsters, then you're mainly interested in Pole Shark and Jagged Butcher, since those are the ones that can survive a hit from Fortune Croaker. And so, that game that we just played does show a bit of the importance in being able to, get these Fortune Croakers down. Maybe things could have been a little bit different if we'd been able to be a bit more aggressive, but that was, one of those openers to where it's like we have to try to Shell Shocker into Fortune Croaker. We didn't spend all of our mana every turn on units, and we ended up with 3 spell mana. 2 of it would have been from just passing with mana. Maybe we should have just been more aggressive with it and just aced off one of the Shell Shockers right to begin with, but that is like the real core of the deck here. And then, depending on what you're going for, what you're trying to pull off, whether it's just this early game plays, which kind of fit well with like a Fishbone style deck, or if you're trying to go for plunders or trying to go for Sea Monsters, kind of the world is your oyster once you have this early game package pieced together. And so, that's what we kind of leave it to you to decide on how you want the deck to go. If you're going to go for plunders, then, you're looking for additionally like Slippery Wave Riders as an additional kind of safe way to close out games. If you're going for Sea Monsters, then, Abyssal Eye is kind of your way to go. But you do need to pick up, a little bit of late game cards that can assist in winning, just under the assumption that you don't draw something big with Pilfered Goods out of your opponent's deck. But yeah, I think this was pretty on point with how you want your Twisted Fate decks to go. The big caveat that happens in these Bilgewater only decks and where you have to really watch yourself is your only removal are sunk costs, which you can only get sunk cost out of trade picks. It doesn't live in any actual card pools. Otherwise, you're limited to Scrap Shot, which we saw 0 of this trial. And then if you can't pick up either of those, then you have 1 damage pings and Parlay and Make It Rain, and you have weird vulnerables, right? You can use Ye Been Warned, Hired Gun, and then Jaw Hunters as ways to kind of interact with your opponents. But that is ultimately, the big weakness in any Bilgewater deck is you don't have any access to removal. So do keep that in mind. Do give these cards, a higher rating if you do see a Scrap Shot, or even, we passed on the Steal your unit, whatever that one was called, the 6 mana thing, plunders, to take a unit from your opponent. We passed on that one, but that is ultimately where you will struggle here, if and only if you don't completely ignore your top end. And so do make sure you pick up some Abyssal Eyes or Slippery Wave Riders. Do go out of your way to find some expensive cards, do go out of your way to find some removal spells, and then otherwise, keep an eye on these early game plays. That's really what Twisted Fate is looking to pull off. But that is going to do it for us today. I do believe we have the cupcake reward, the Poro cupcake thing. More than happy to pick that up. I'm excited that Runeterra has made it a year. We've been here right around a year on this channel as well, as far as following Runeterra. As soon as the open beta hit, I jumped right in and started making videos. And so, whatever the Runeterra year marker is, that is what ours would be as well for making Runeterra videos. So, all in all, pretty cool run. Good trial. I hope you learned how to draw cards, a little bit better. You maybe learned a thing or two along the way and had a good time watching. This is Bust, and we thank you for being here.